Ladies and gentlemen, it's me again. I've been working on my Kohler 25 horse two cylinder engine. This is the one that I put on my Murray. Uh, it says Murray 12.5 horsepower Briggs and Stratton 40-inch cut 5-speed. Anyway, the number one cylinder, which is this one right here, I think it blew the head gasket because that thing started blowing oil all over the place. And I cleaned up a bunch of it, but I screwed up. I should have really just uh, power washed the whole thing before I ever tore into it. But anyway, I got it tore apart. I took the heads off, and here's what the head looks like. Now, these are numbered. As you can tell, that has a number 2 on it. That means it goes on cylinder number 2. And you can interchange them, but the problem with that is if you interchange it, then the exhaust is going to be pointing up and the intake is going to be pointing down. Now, the exhaust, it would probably work that way, but it really wouldn't because the camshaft would be opening everything at the wrong time, so that wouldn't work. But anyway, you could put it on upside down and it would bolt on, or from side to side. Anyway, I already put the exhaust pipes on. On this application, I could do that because this engine, I don't think Murray ever put a two-cylinder engine on a 40-inch cut mower. Now, I could be wrong, I don't know, but anyway, I took the heads off. I took this to my buddy in Arkansas. He did a valve job on them. I figured, what the heck, since I already had it apart, I would have him do a valve job on it for me. So, and I'm glad I did. I mean, they weren't bad. They weren't too far out of whack, that was okay. But anyway, I got that taken care of. I've got them all cleaned up, and I'm fixing to put the head gasket on now and put that back together. And this kit that I got, it's not bad at all. In fact, it's one of the improved ones, I think. I know Kohler, they have an improved kit, and this turned out to be an improved kit. Now, I couldn't find exactly where the head gasket was bad. Wait a minute, just a second here. I couldn't find just exactly where the head gasket was bad, but it was blowing oil out, so I figured that's what it was. It looked like it was coming between the head and the cylinder. Okay, now these kits, they're just like a Kohler kit. They give you new nuts. These washers go with the nuts. If you have studs, now I don't have the studs, I have bolts, which is okay. And so you can see the difference in these. Now these are a little bigger than what these are. A little bigger. See, around here, around the outer edge, you can tell the difference there. They're a little bit beefier, but that's okay. It sticks out between the head and the cylinder, but that's not a problem. But anyway, I go over here and put the head gasket on. Now, this has locating dials on it. These right here, these pins right here, for locating the head and the gasket, which that's a big help. And see, these have the metal ring that go around the cylinder, whereas I'm assuming this was the original gasket. These don't have that. The new gaskets that you get from Kohler do have those. So let me see here. We'll just go ahead and put this on there. I'm going to try to set this up where I can use both my hands and you can still watch. Let me see if I get this set up right. Okay. Whoops. Well, shoot, I got so much junk over here. Okay, there we go. Well, I don't know if that's going to work very well or not. Let me see. I think what I'll do is try to move it over here. I wish I had a tripod, but I don't have one of those. There we go. I think. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, here we go. Grab a couple of head bolts. And the head, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on like so. Make sure the head gasket stays in place. I got that in there. Put one head bolt in, get it started. Put another head bolt in. Get it started. Now this calls for, I believe, 150 inch-pounds and then 370 inch-pounds, something like that. And if you figure it out, it works out to like, I think 12 and a half foot-pounds and 26 and a quarter foot-pounds. So you torque it to 12 and a half first and then go one up. Huh, I think I made a boo-boo here. I'm gonna have to, I think I'm gonna have to use some washers on this. I don't remember any washers coming off. I don't remember any washers coming off when I took those off. It sure looks like it'll fit on there. So that's probably what I should do, is use those washers. No, wait a minute. The washers were intended for the nuts, not for the bolts. So I'm not going to use the washers. I'm just going to use the bolts. Okay. I'm just going to get all these head bolts started. Then I'll use my ratchet to run them down, and then I'll use my torque wrench to tighten them up. There we go. Okay. Getting these nice and tight, or snug anyway, just, and then like I said, I use the torque wrench to tighten them up all the way. There we go. Yeah, get my torque wrench. And I've had this thing for quite a few years, and comes in extremely handy. Okay, there's 12 for the first one. The first torque down. I don't know if you can hear it clicking or not, but I can hear it and feel it. Okay, there's 12 and a half pounds. And now we go up to, let me see here, it's 20, it's supposed to be 26 and a quarter. Okay, here we go. Well, didn't quite click that time. There it goes. Okay, there it goes. There it goes. Okay. Up here. Okay. Now the reason I keep going back across the bolt pattern is in case one happens to move. And sometimes when you get too torqued, one or both of the others will move a little bit, even though they already showed the proper torque the first time around. But I go around a couple of times, even after, to make sure nothing tightens up anymore. And that seems like that worked out okay. Now, before I get stopped here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to back off my torque wrench to 0 because I'm not going to need it anymore after this. You should always set your torque wrench back to 0 when you're finished with it. That's just what I heard years ago. So, because if you leave it set, it puts tension on that torque spring inside the wrench itself, so the ratchet itself. So you don't want to do that. Okay, now what I got to do is I got to put the rocker arms and the other pieces. Let me see here. The rocker arms, push rods, and the valve cover back on. So let me see here. On these, the top one is the intake and the bottom one is the exhaust. That's easy enough to tell because the intake manifold goes up here and the exhaust manifold on the bottom. So that makes that pretty simple. What I'm going to do, I had them taped and numbered so I can put everything back in the same place it came from. I don't think it really makes a whole lot of difference. It's just something that I do. And let me see. Take my paper towel and I'll put a little bit of carb cleaner on it, or brake parts cleaner. See there? Brake parts cleaner. I don't know if you can see that or not. Anyway, put a little bit of this on there. Well, that was just great. I take the push rod and I wipe it down with the parts cleaner. Plus, I put a little bit of oil on the end of it. There we go. Got some oil on the end of it. And then I run it through to the lifter. I'll see if I can get you to see that. I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well or not, but I don't have very good lighting in here. Okay, well shoot, let me get a flashlight, maybe that'll help. Here we go. Well, what no, oh, here it is. Okay, can you see in there? Not very well. Even with the flashlight, you can't see it very well. Yeah, that don't help either. Doggone it. Okay. There you can see a little bit. And then I got to do the same thing with the bottom one, and then put the rocker arms on. And here's the rocker arms. Like I said, I marked everything. Number 2 head intake. I marked everything so I could put everything back in the same place. And again, you probably don't necessarily have to do that. That's just something I do. That's just me. And see, here it is. It's pretty simple. It's got the fulcrum. This just goes against the bottom of the rocker arm, and then it bolts into the head. Let me see if I can get this apart without dropping everything. Here we go. See, you can tell where it's been riding on there. And put this back in there, like so. And then it takes an 8mm wrench for that nut right there. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in place, and then I'll go to the exhaust. Here you go. Let's see if I can get you set up here again. All right, I hope that works. I hope you can see it. I can't figure out how to make it zoom in. Made it. Let me check with this. Maybe I can figure this out here. Oh gosh. Oh, there we go. Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, let me try something different here then. Okay. There we go. And all right, let me see if I can get something, a piece of wood or something here to get that adjusted where you can see it. Okay, let me see if that does any good. Okay, there we go. I think that's a little better. All right, get this out of the way. And here's my rocker arm. And like I said, that uses an 8mm. Got a ratchet and an 8mm socket. And I'm fixing to put this in place. Now I'm going to oil everything up as soon as I get everything hopefully lined up and about ready to go. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that for now. And here it is. Got the push rod for my exhaust valve. And again, I'm going to use my paper towel to wipe down the push rod. And then take my oil can. I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyway, putting some oil on it. I got cardboard on my floor to help keep the floor clean. And run that into the lifter. take my exhaust rocker. And like I said, I don't know if there's any difference in these or not. I just marked them as I took it apart so I could put it back the same way it came. And hopefully that way I know everything's going to work the way, at least as good as it did before I took it apart. Or hopefully it will. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now, again, before I go any further, obviously still loose, I'm going to oil up the valve spring, the head of the, and lube up this. Some people probably don't think that's necessary. I don't know. This thing does have a oil pump on it, so it has a pressurized lubrication system on it. So that should help get oil pumped up to these. And I've seen on one gentleman, he actually measured the oil pressure, and it was a Briggs and Stratton 2-cylinder, and that thing had 60 pounds of oil pressure. I was shocked. That's more oil pressure than what most automobile engines will run. Okay, now you don't have to worry about checking the, on these you don't have to worry about checking the valve lash, because that's not important anyway. You just tighten them up and hope it runs when you get done. Actually, that's not 100% true, because this one has hydraulic lifters on it, so you don't have to do that. I'm trying to think what this was. I think I gotta go 60 and then 120 for the rocker arm bolts. 60 inch pounds, not foot pounds. There's 50, there's 60 inch pounds. Okay. Now, I don't know if those numbers are correct. I looked it up and it said 200 inch pounds. I thought, man, 200 inch pounds? That seems awful lot for such a small bolt. So I just figured I would use 120, and that's what I did. I guess I'll find out later on whether or not that works. There's 120. Okay, so let's see what happens. There's 120. There's 120. And like I said, I could be way off on that, but I just think that's about what it should be. Again, I could be wrong, so I don't know. But there's that head on. And again, I'm going to back off my torque wrench back to the lowest torque it has. And again, that's so you don't have stress on the spring on the inside, because that can affect your torque measurements later on. Oh, God. Now all I gotta do is put the valve cover on, and then I'll be ready to start putting the rest of the stuff on. And these bolts, I've got them cleaned up. And one thing I want to show you on this valve cover, it has, I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well or not. Oh, I'm too close. Okay. It actually has a rubber gasket that goes all the way around. I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well or not. But anyway, it's got a rubber gasket that goes all the way around, so you don't have to change those. Probably wouldn't hurt to put some new ones on, but since the valve cover gaskets weren't leaking, I'm not going to change them, at least not this time around. And if I get it together and it starts leaking, I'll replace them. Oh boy, I'm just trying to get a little extra dirt cleaned off of this thing. Boy, boy. Man, the outside of this thing is a lot dirtier than I remembered it, but anyway, like I said, when I first started taking this apart, I should have just stopped, took it outside, power washed it, and that way I would have been finished with it. But unfortunately, I didn't do that. And because I didn't do that, that's what I wound up with. So anyway, it's just the way life goes sometimes. I think after I put the intake manifold on, I'm not going to put the carburetor on, but I'll put the intake manifold on, then I'll take it outside and clean it up. There we go. Got one started. Two started. Three started. And four started. Here we go. Okay, yeah, man. Now, I don't know what the torque is for these, and quite frankly, I'm not really all that concerned about it. These are shoulder bolts, just tighten them down till they stop. And like I said, I wasn't having any problems with them leaking, so I'm not worried about it. I guess if you really needed a torque measurement, I guess you could say probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 inch-pounds maybe would probably be fine. Again, I'm not using my torque wrench on this. It feels good, and that's where I stop. There we go. And that's how you install it is. Removal is pretty much the same thing, except like I said, I took everything apart, and as I took it apart, I marked everything: the intake push rod, the intake rocker arm assembly, the exhaust, etc. And like I took these, like I said, only one head was blowed, one head gasket, but I got a kit that had both the head gaskets, or I got two kits for a head gasket. Took it apart, and that's why I did it that way. I went ahead and replaced both of them at the same time. Plus, I took it to my buddy's machine shop down in Arkansas. He did the valve job on it for me. After he did the valve job, we put it in his parts washer, let it run for about 30 minutes in his part washer. He assembled them for me, and I've had really good luck with him. I've known him since 1984. He did a car engine for me. I had a 65 Dodge Dart. The fuel pump went out of it several months earlier. It dumped a bunch of gas into the oil. I changed the fuel pump, I changed the oil filter, and about 3 or 4 months later, it had a rod knocking in it, and I really liked the car enough that I went ahead and rebuilt the engine. Pulled the engine out myself, disassembled it myself. Again, I marked everything when I took it apart. I took the block to him. He said, yeah, it needs to be bored out. So had him bore it and hone it 30 thousandths, had him mill the top of the block so it would be nice and flat. I took the head to him, he rebuilt the head, put hardened exhaust valve seats in, because that car was built when they still had lead in gasoline. And that thing, when I got finished with it, when he got finished with the doing the machine work, I put it back together, and out on the highway, that 65 Dodge Dart had a 3-speed manual transmission. The engine, it was a slant 6, it was a 170 cubic inch, and that thing, I got 27 miles a gallon on the highway, and around town I got 18 miles a gallon with it. And I just really enjoyed that automobile. And I got into another project, and I sold it to help pay for another project. But, you know, kind of wish I hadn't done that, but that's what you do sometimes. You just do what you got to do. Well, I think I'm going to end the video at this point and go ahead and put my intake manifold on, take it outside, power wash it, crank it back in, and try finishing it up. And I just want to show you a few things too. When I was working on this thing, let me show you. These right here. Now, as you can see, the exhaust pipe comes real close to that. Well, that is the hood mount. And what I had to do, this piece right here is the original hood mount. And these right here are 1-inch spacers. I took a piece of pipe and made those. I cut 4 of them. I put 2 on this side, of course. And I used lock nuts on these. I used threaded rod with lock nuts. That's like grade 1 and 2. It's not very heavy duty, but it works. But see, I had to move it over 1 inch. Well, this one, I had to do the same, because see, they usually mount right here and right here. And as you can tell, it would have interfered on both sides with the exhaust pipe. So I just moved them out 1 inch, and that works okay. Here's my hood, and here's the, I was going to use nuts and bolts, and I decided that was a dumb idea because the nuts could back off. So what I did, I just used threaded rod. I drilled holes in it and used these pins, and whenever I want to take it apart, just pull a pin out, pull this off on both sides, and the hood comes right off without any problems. And see, there's the other one right there. Well, there it is. But anyway, that's why I've got these pieces here. Now, that piece there and this piece here, it looks kind of weird because it's higher. Well, the original Briggs & Stratton engine, it wasn't nearly as high as this. So that's why I had to add those to raise the hood. Well, then back here, I went with these, to raise the back of the hood to try to help level the hood off. And I'll show you the hood. Now I cut this hole in it, and most likely I didn't need that big hole in there. But I figured those little holes, they may have been enough to cool it, but I didn't want to take any chances with it. So that's why I did what I did there. I can't get this, there we go. There, now I can see a little better. I took it off of zoom back down to where it should be. But anyway, that's what I'm doing, folks. And I'll tell you, I bought, this engine was on a Craftsman GT 5000, and I got the old mower from this gentleman, and he told me the engine would run, but said the rest of it was pretty much junk. And I managed to get the engine running. It would only run for a few seconds at a time. I took the carburetor apart, and I was really surprised because the carburetor was extremely clean, but it has a electronic shutoff valve on it. You know, they call it anti-backfire, which whatever, that's fine. And what I did, I just took the plunger out so it couldn't shut the fuel off, and it's running fine ever since. And it has the coil ground wires, so when you turn the key off, it shuts that off. And I had to do a little changing on the wiring. Overall, it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, this starter, it uses, it's a little different than the Briggs, because I've got a hot wire. With the Briggs, I got a solenoid down here, which I'm not even going to try to get to it. But anyway, it's got a solenoid down there, and then it has, the battery went to one side of it, and then from the other side it went to the starter. So what I did, I just brought a battery cable to the solenoid. From the same side, I brought this heavy wire here, and then this little wire right here, which is what works the solenoid on the starter, this right here. I know I got all this crap in the way, this kind of gummed up there, but anyway, and it works fine. I put this wire on the other side, and it works. And all these wires here, this wire here, I can't remember what that was for, but I had to, oh yeah, that's for the solenoid. That was the wire that I couldn't run through there. I probably could have, but I didn't. But anyway, but it works fine. The hardest problem I had was underneath. That originally had, the Craftsman had a electric clutch for driving the blades, and I didn't want that. I wanted the manual engagement. So I ran into a whole bunch of problems with that. The Craftsman, this Kohler, it has a 1 1/8 inch crankshaft. The Briggs and Stratton had a 1 inch, and that created more problems than I really cared to deal with. But I got it all figured out. I took an old clutch apart, it had a little small piece. So I used the original Craftsman, like the original pulley for the transmission from the Craftsman on this one. And then I had the other piece welded to it, which would allow the pulley to slide all the way up on the crankshaft. And then I welded the pulley from the Briggs and Stratton pulley assembly, because it had a shaft and the pulleys were welded to that. Well, I cut it off and put it on, welded it onto that. It looks like crap, but it works. I don't care. It works. And this thing's been doing a great job. Like I said, I don't know how many hours was on this thing. All I know is it was doing one heck of a job. And one thing I found, by having double the horsepower, if anything stops a blade from turning, it just tears stuff up. It doesn't kill the engine. The engine didn't even bog down. But what happened was the blade on this side, and I'm not sure what happened, but the blade on this side, it had stopped and the engine kept going. It broke the blade adapter at the bottom of the spindle. It stripped it out. On the top end, it literally tore the pulley in half. The top and lower parts of the pulley came apart. And I mean, it did a heck of a number on it, but the engine never stopped. It bogged, I mean, it didn't even bog down. It just, all it sounded like was it hit a little bit of tall grass, and that was it. And then I had parts flying out from under the mower deck, and that's when I realized something was definitely wrong. So I shut it off, and I got all the parts. I wound up taking it off. This right here, this is I picked that up the other day. That's a roll of paper towels, kind of bigger than your normal roll of paper towels. I understand that, but it's like I've used quite a bit, as you can tell. But it was started out. It was 32 inches in diameter from there to there. The centerpiece, I think, if I remember right, was about 1 foot. But anyway, it's a lot of paper towels. They're 12 and a half inches wide. This right here at the bottom, that green and red piece, that's a strap. I put the strap on there so it wouldn't come undone while I was hauling it. But yeah, anyway, I've probably talked way too much. I got a lot more work to do. I guess I better get to it. I was kind of hoping to have it finished by tomorrow, and it's probably going to take me that long to get it done. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, everybody.